Okay, sorry about that, y'all. I had a malfunction. My mic was not going right, so now I got it together. And we are about to get ready to get this show started. So make sure y'all share this show out to everybody. Make sure you get that out so everybody know exactly what's going on. And make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. So I think y'all can hear me now. Let me know y'all can hear me. I have my thing on mute for a second, so I apologize for that. But we are ready to rock and roll, and we are ready to get this show started. And we are definitely going to have some fun with this particular channel. And we are going to make this thing happen. So let's get ready to tune in. And let's get this party started right about now. It's time to tighten up. Let's get tightened up. Tightened up. I've been scoping from the sideline, waiting for the right time to send the precious team to scrimmage. I'm busting y'all. We got this here, we got this here, don't ride back. We got this here, this is so. Out your lap, don't ride back. See, we got this here, we got this here. It's a brand new dance and it's about to go live. Tighten up, Nashville, up to 615. First you tighten 2 steps, step to the right. Then you tighten 2 steps, step to the left. Blue jerseys everywhere. Game face, yeah, we got it on. Sticking out our chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Count that. It's about to get her up. Here come the train, y'all. To the seat, tighten up. Let's get tightened up. Tighten up. Let's get tightened up. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Tighten 2 steps, step to the right. Then you tighten 2 steps, step to the left. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Third down, come on now, we about to shut down. Good evening, Titan Nation. How's everybody doing? Welcome into a brand new edition of Titans and Truth. I'm your man, Chris, aka Blue Enforcer, and we are going to have a very fun episode on this evening. And we're going to definitely do a lot of talking and a lot of figuring what the heck is going on in the world of the Tennessee Titans. So this is, what we're going to do. First off, make sure y'all share this show out. Make sure y'all share. There is, of course, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And give me a moment. I'm going to let y'all see my face. There it is right there. So make sure y'all share this show out on all the platforms. Let everybody know where you can find me, where everybody can see, and where everything is possible. So let's go ahead and get into the whole thing. If you saw on the front screen, you know what's happened. So we're just gonna go ahead. We're gonna start off with the good news first, and let's start off with that. And that is, well, I guess we could call it good news, that the Tennessee Titans promote Todd Downing to offensive coordinator. So he is the new offensive coordinator. He was the tight ends coach for the Tennessee Titans, and he is now the the offensive coordinator for your Tennessee Titans. Now, at first, when I heard this particular move, I was not very thrilled about it at first, but after, thinking about it and reading some, credentials and things like that, I figure this might not be so bad. This might actually be okay. They're trying to keep the continuity and stuff together. I mean, yes, in the beginning, it was a pretty unimpressive hire, but at the end, I still think this might do us some good with that, with Shane Bowen being the offensive coordinator. I mean, Todd Downing being the offensive coordinator. And I guess Vrabel is feeling like, you know what? I struck gold with a Titans coach before. Let's see if we can make the gold strike twice with with Todd Downing as offensive coordinator. And I was listening to A to Z Sports earlier, and the things that are true, and Buck Rising mentioned it, is that one thing about the tight ends coach, number one, you got to be very well in tune, not only with the passing scheme, but you also have to be in tune with the blocking scheme as well for tight ends, because tight ends have to do both. They got to be able to play receiver, but also got to help block. So that's something that is, important in a Titan offense, is that you got to know your schemes. You got to know what you're supposed to do. And Todd Downing does have some experience with that. So to help with that, I'm going to give some facts, because I know there are people like, I didn't even know Todd Downing was the tight ends coach. But this is some background on Todd Downing, at least professionally, in his career. Of course, for the last 2 years, he was the tight ends coach here. He was also the Vikings tight ends coach. He was also an offensive quality control coach for the Vikings back in 2005. He was a Raiders quarterback coach, and there was the one time that he was offensive coordinator in 2017. Maybe not the greatest year as far as the Raiders are concerned, but again, this is, he does have experience calling plays. And of course, he has experience dealing with quarterbacks, as he was the Bills quarterback coach. In 2014, he was a Lions quarterback coach as well. And then he did some stuff with the Rams back in 2008 and 2006 and 2007. So Todd Downing has a pretty long resume as far as his experience in the coaching world. So, I mean, I think that does help, especially does help with the fact that he has called plays before. It may have not been a lot of experience, only 1 year, but again, it is some experience that could definitely help. And obviously, as Buck mentioned on Facebook, he was basically saying that a lot of players are very fired up about Todd Downing being the offensive coordinator. So that does bode well. That does bode well for the offense going forward. It keeps that continuity together. You don't really have to make a lot of changes offensively to, fit players in and things like that. Everything will probably stay the same, but hoping that there is a little bit of innovation that adds on to it. So I'm glad everybody can hear me and everything. Chuck Corley says, tighten up. What's going on? Guardian down. What's up with you? Blue 5133. He is livid, and I think we all know why. AZ Mick, not very happy. C Dub, tighten up. Let's see, Titan Wheezy. And as I've been hearing from Mark, shout out to Titan Wheezy and Big O Titan. They're starting up their channel very soon. So congrats to those guys. And also shout out to Titan Upload Mark for the promotion earlier before he has his show tonight. So after you watch this show, make sure y'all go on over to Titan Upload. I'm sure he's going to blow your mind, as he always does, and what he has to say about these hires that have happened today. And he's going to bring the fire. He's going to bring the smoke. I talked to Ken Moore last night. I talked to him last night Wasn't very impressed with the Downing hire. I am definitely interested to see what he thinks about the other hire that we're going to talk about and everything. So here are some more comments we're going to take a look at before we go forward. Ian Talley says, hopefully he does as good as Arthur Smith. I definitely hope so too. And C-Dub saying here, if the Titans regress this year, we might have to look at moving on from J-Rob or Vrabel. Now, I'm going to talk about more of this type of comment with the next hire, definitely on that. And so Jameson says, I can somewhat get behind the OC hire. Travis, what's going on with you, my friend? How's it going? Jameson says, what's up? Let's see. I could tell a lot of you are definitely not happy about a lot of different things. Do9 says J-Rob been dropping the ball. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that. But again, my thoughts on this is this. Again, at first when I heard the news, I wasn't exactly the happiest about it. But I did, say, you know what? I think I could get behind this. I think I might be all right, with it because you know what? This is going to pay dividend. I think this may pay dividends for us in the future. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Todd Downing being the offensive coordinator for this Tennessee Titans team. Now, to the other side, the bad news is the Titans decide to make Shane Bowen defensive coordinator officially now. And let me just tell you, I'm pretty sure, as all of you have mentioned and all of you have said, we're not happy about it. It is not good. It is, I think it is definitely the wrong decision about that. So I put out a tweet and a post earlier about this, and I got a little flack for it as well. I got some supportive comments, but I also got some flack as well. So I'm going to tell y'all, what I think in just a second. And, this hire was supposed to be very, very important, but Mike Vrabel decides to kind of get in his own way, and it strikes again. He strikes again, and I'm very disappointed with the choice because I'm thinking, are you trying to tell me there were no better candidates out there for offensive coordinator? There were no better candidates. You could have looked at anybody else. You could have looked at. They interviewed Terrell Austin, and that was it. That's all we hear. And then he decides, well, I'm just gonna stick in house. I'm gonna just stick in house and everything. But I don't like the move. I don't. I don't like the move. I never will like this move unless the Tennessee Titans somehow make this a big deal. If the Titans definitely step up and do well, then yes, everything will be okay. But if if he screws up and this defense stays as bad as it is or doesn't step up, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a very big problem, and Vrabel is gonna be mostly to blame for what's going on. Plain and simple. Vrabel is going to have to just say, Vrabel is going to have to take the fall for that because this was his doing, this was his hire, this was his decision, and he screwed it up. So I absolutely hate this move. I don't think it impressed anybody. and I'm sharing this show out as well. So make sure y'all spread the word to everybody. Let everybody know. We want to hit that like button. We got 22 people in here now. Let's get that up to 30 or 40. Let's get some more people in here to join us on this show. And I want to get your thoughts about this particular move. I know a lot of you are not happy about it at all. AZ Big was like, Shane Bowen, no. He was definitely not happy with that. Guardian Down was like, Vrabel strikes again. Jameson said, I can get behind the OC, but the defense, DC crap, basically. Let's see. And then he also comes in and says, DC hire is the one that gets me steamed up about and everything. Joseph comes in and says, Vrabel is such a bonehead for promoting Shane Bowen. And in his Power Ranger voice, ay, ay, ay. I would be doing the same thing. Trust me on that. And it is, I mean, I hate the move. I do. I know a lot of you also hate this move. C-Dub saying, I'm frustrated with the defensive coordinator hire. It was lazy. And I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. I think it was a lazy move. It's like Vrabel didn't try or anything like that. James says these hires are squarely on Vrabel. I agree. DNS says Shane Bowen hiring is not on hard. Shane Bowen hire is not on hardhead Vrabel. It is J-Rob for allowing Vrabel to do whatever he wants. Now, half of that I kind of do agree with, that J-Rob should take some of the blame, because he didn't just tell him, you know what, the defense stunk. You really need to look at possibly going a different direction. And, he didn't do it. And like I said, I'm just sharing this show out to some places, but he didn't do it. He's letting Vrabel like, you know what? You're the coach. You hire the guys. And if it was me, I'm at least going to tell him, look, just at least take a look outside, because right now what we got wasn't working. You got to do something different. But we all know Vrabel is as stubborn as a mule. And I thought Mike Mularkey was stubborn. Mike Vrabel gives a whole new meaning to the word stubborn. He is very stubborn. He is very hard-headed. And dare I say it, he is quite arrogant. We see this time and time again. I've said it. He's very arrogant. And I mean, Vrabel he feels like, you know what? I know all. I know everything. All of you know nothing. He said, and he basically portrays that to all of us as fans, to people like, to the media, to guys like myself, Titan Upload, Ken Moore, makes it seem like we know nothing about football. And I think there's quite a few of us in here watching that has at least played some sort of football somewhere in our lives. And so we know a little bit of football, I think. But, I mean, come on. This was a pathetic hire. And I'll give you some facts to back this up. Now, here is Shane Bowen's resume. That's it. Professionally. He did a little bit. He was a graduate assistant at Ohio State and stuff like that. But he was a Texas defensive assistant. And then he was the outside linebackers coach for the last 2 years. Last year being the de facto defensive coordinator. And I say de facto defensive coordinator for a reason. So, I mean, extremely unimpressive hire by Shane Bowen. And I don't like this at all. I think I feel like Vrabel is going to be taking over again. And that's exactly what it feels like. Look at this. This ain't no quality credentials for a a defensive head coach, for a defensive coordinator, one of your most important positions that you're going to possibly have. I mean, come on. You got to have a little bit more than that. And I mean, the fact that this happened, again, Vrabel will get the blame for this if it all goes south. And as I stated before, Vrabel thinks he knows all. He's doing the Belichick thing. He thinks we know all. He thinks he know all. We know nothing. And I got some flack for this from my guy. You know him, you love him. My guy, Todd Davenport. We were talking, we were kind of just chatting, talking some shop earlier. And I put out a Facebook post on the TNT Enforcers page. And I said, what a terrible, hire. Let me go back. I'm gonna show you exactly. This is exactly what I said. Vrabel stubborn A, done it again. Worst defense ever, and Shane Bowen promoted to DC. Hashtag horrible move. Hashtag pathetic. That was what I tweeted that out and I put it on Facebook. Now, my guy TD, y'all know him, you love him. He's a mentor to me. I love TD. Make sure y'all check out Talking with TD. Make sure you also catch up with TD and Nate on Fridays. They're probably, I think, just got done doing a show today. And, me and TD chopped it up a little bit. We were talking, and when I put that post out, TD hit me up and said, how is it the worst defense ever? This is false. You can't be emotional. Well, because I'm trying to get in a career. He said, you can't be emotional if you're working to make this a career. Were they bad last year? Absolutely. Was it all on Shane Bowen? No. Were they the worst defense ever? Not at all. Now that is from TD, from Todd Davenport. We were talking. And TD, if you're listening, and if, like I said, I love you. You're my guy, my mentor. We cool, but we can agree to disagree. Still love you. We gonna still talk. But in some instances, I do agree with him. Yes, me being involved in, getting into the media and things like that, you can't be emotional. So that, I think my post was the fan in me. The professional me states that this is a bad hire. I think Vrabel could have really went outside, tried to do something different. You could have looked at Wade Phillips. You could have brought back Dean Pease, but you didn't. Lovie Smith is in Houston now. You really could have looked in some other directions and tried something different, because you're basically trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I don't think this is going to pan out well, in my honest opinion. And here is some facts that I have that is interesting. I came up with this thanks to Pro Football Reference. This right here is a list of the worst Titan defenses, worst Titan Oiler defenses in franchise history. Top 5 or top 4 as far as, because, you have multiple years, and in total yards and scoring defense. So I want y'all to take a look at this. In total yards, the Tennessee Titans last year finished 28th in total yards allowed per game. That is tied for second worst in Titans history. And I'm going to get to some of y'all comments in a minute. Now he's saying not the worst defense, but TD, they're one of the worst in yards per game. Now I know a lot of people really go on the other stat, which we'll get to. But as far as yards given up per game, the Tennessee Titans are tied for second worst in franchise history. ranked 28th. In 2006, they were dead last in yards given up, and the defensive coordinator at that time was Jim Schwartz. And I want to say he might have gotten fired after that year. But you got 2006, and look at this number. Ever since the Tennessee Titans won the division in 2008, in this listing and total yards given up, the Tennessee Titans have been one of the worst in 5 of those years. Ever since 2008 winning that division. 2009, they finished 28th. 2010, they were 26th. 2012, 2014 were 27th. And then now in 2020, we were 28th. 27th, that was one of the Wizenhunt years. And believe me, those defenses were horrible, without a doubt. Now, here's the stat that I know everybody talks about. Scoring defense. Here are some more facts. The worst scoring defense in Tennessee Titans Houston Oilers history was in 2012. Jerry Gray was the defensive coordinator. Chuck Cecil was one, and he won much better. But in 2012 was the worst scoring defense in franchise history. Then you got in 2006, 2004, 2014, we were 27th in yards given up, 29th in points given up. In 2009, we were 28th in both categories. Given that was the year after we won the AFC South the last time. The Tennessee Titans defense this year finished 24th in points allowed. In points per game allowed. That's 9th all time. 9th in Titans history. In Titans Oilers history, the 9th worst scoring defense in history. The Titans have been around for well over 70, almost 80 years. Well, let me see. Wait a minute. 60 years. Over 60 years. Because they started back in 1960 in the AFL. 9th all time. Worst scoring defense. Titans tied for 2nd worst total defense. And Michael Rosie, I appreciate you bringing up that comment. I haven't even mentioned the third down defense that will go down in history as the worst third down defense in the history of the National Football League. Let that sink into your minds. The worst third down defense in football history. Not just Titan history, but in NFL history. Gave up nearly 50%, if not more, on third down. I think it was around 52%, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a time last season we gave up almost 60% on third down. So there are some stats. There are some facts. Now, TD is right. They were not the worst defense ever, although it looked like it. But judging by these stats, they were definitely one of the worst defenses ever. Third down D, total defense, was 9th all-time in points allowed per game. And also remember how we always talked about sacks. Last year, in 2019, we had 45 sacks as a team, and we were talking bad about not enough sacks then. We were talking about the pass rush. This team had 22 sacks. One of the worst for any playoff team. And the only I want to say they tied for 19 or 20 because they got like 4 or 5 sacks in that Houston game. And that's what saved them because they were about to go down as the worst team in NFL history that made the playoffs with the least number of sacks. Those are some facts. Titans were one of the worst defenses in franchise history, without a doubt. Let me go to some of y'all comments because I know y'all thinking I ignored you. So I apologize for that. Let's see. I'm going to go back a little bit. So bear with me. I may not get to everybody's comments, but I love you. Baldwin Beard says, Shane Bowen, normally if you test drive a car and it sucks, you don't buy it. I know that's right. I mean, it seemed like he's trying the same thing, thinking, you know what? It didn't work before. I'm going to try it again. I think it'll work. DNS says, you can't reward a guy for performing bad. What message does that send to the players? Exactly. My manager at my job, I work for FedEx. If I'm performing bad on the job, my manager is not going to reward me for being bad on the job. I'm either going to be disciplined or I get fired from my job. Blue 5133 says, honestly, might be done with Vrabel. And let me tell y'all this. If this doesn't work, if the defense continues to be bad and doesn't make a significant improvement, I think after this upcoming season, Vrabel should be on the hot seat because this is on him. This is Vrabel's doing, and he will have nobody to blame but himself because he's the one that thinks he knows everything. He made this hire. Rocky Yit says, terrible hire. What's up, Michael Rosie? He's super agitated. Let's see. Walker Guy coming in with a little optimism says, I think they're about to make a big move because they're saving money for a reason. I think they're going after someone big. Here's the problem. It depends on what the salary cap is. Now, shout out to Titan Upload and Ken Moore. They did a show a couple of nights ago. If they're at the lowest point, which is, I believe, around $175 million, if it drops that low, the Tennessee Titans would be about $7 to $8 million over the cap and would have to get under. Now, if it stays the same at about $198 million, then I think, yes, the Titans would have a little bit of wiggle room to work with. But it really depends on where the salary cap is. If the salary cap remains where it is, and I'll get some facts about that before the Super Bowl show next week. But I want to say if it stays the way it is, I believe the Titans would have about maybe 20-something million to work with if it stays the same. But if it goes under and goes down to the lowest point, Titans are going to be well over the cap and have to get under it. But they need to make a move. I thought about that too. If they're going to be able to beat Kansas City or stave off Indianapolis, because Indianapolis could go after Matt Stafford, and they got plenty of money, you're going to have to make a big move. Michael says, doesn't make no sense. Joe says, should have went after Wade Phillips. Cadero says, he's already got strike one for not naming a DC last year. This will be strike two. If we don't make the playoffs, 3 strikes, he's out. I like that. James says defense will be placed under a microscope by the fan base. I agree. Travis, he said what we say. We talk a lot. He said this is typical Tennessee Titans move. Always cronyism and have a good old boy system mentality. Now, I don't know if I would say good old boy system, but I mean, he's not far off. It seemed like he is so comfortable with guys he knows. Vrabel is so afraid to go out of the box and go after somebody maybe he's not familiar with or anybody that maybe he doesn't know as well, but who has done a pretty good job of what they've done. Michael Rose said, what happened to Pep Hamilton? Well, that was some bad news that messed me up too. Pep Hamilton is the quarterback's coach in Houston when he could have been offensive coordinator here. So I don't know what Vrabel said to him that messed that up. But maybe Pep Hamilton didn't interview well in that situation, or what Pep Hamilton was going to bring, Vrabel was like, oh, no, this ain't what I want our offense to be. I want our offense to stay like the way I want it. Because, you know, Vrabel is very headstrong. He is very stubborn. He is set in his ways. He's basically like, it's my way or the highway. That is always how Mike Vrabel has been. Guardian Down says, Malarkey was never arrogant. Malarkey was stubborn. But you're right. He was not arrogant. Mike Vrabel is arrogant. Very, very arrogant. And you can tell. It oozes off of him. I understand he has a lot of confidence, but he has a lot of arrogance to him. And again, I've said this over and over. He has this mentality of, I know better than you. And basically the message that he sent out to the fan base is, you know what? Even though we were one of the worst defenses in the league, we're good. We're good right where we are. We're good. We're not going to change a thing. We're not going to change anything. Big Old Titan says, what a day. Vrabel, looks like Vrabel wants to keep his hands in the cookie jar. At least the team will be consistent, but that gets us one and done in the playoffs. So true. Shout out Big Old Titan on your channel that you have coming up. C-Dub says, Vrabel's ego is too big, and I hope it's not the downfall of the team. That is what I'm scared of. I am terrified of that. That I really think Vrabel's arrogance and attitude, it could doom us in the long run. Walker God says, how do you expect to be contenders with this stupid move? And Blue 5133 said, this has Mike Malarkey written all over it. Same situation with Robisky. Wouldn't let him go, so he himself was let go. And I think J-Rob is probably saying, you know what? We're going to do it your way one more time. But if this doesn't work and you don't want to change, he ain't got no problem letting him go. But see, you got to think about it like this. Mike Malarkey was not J-Rob's guy. Mike Vrabel is J-Rob's guy. They're tied to the hip. So believe me when I tell you, anything bad that goes on and it affects Mike Vrabel, it affects John Robinson as well. And I agree with DNS. This sends a bad message to the players, basically saying, you know what? Y'all can play as bad as you want. I'm not going to punish you. So I can tell a lot of people are very, very angry about this Shane Bowen hire. And I mean, again, Titans Twitters went crazy. Renegade says, what's up, Renegade? Says, I think if Bowen is worse and Vrabel doesn't fire him, then Vrabel has sealed his fate. That could be very true. And Dedrick Witherspoon says, it's a thin line between stubborn and stupid. I know that's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There is definitely a thin line between stubborn and stupid. And Vrabel is walking that line very tight. Let's see. Social Port, what's up, says, I don't think we can gamble a year to see if Bowen will work. We most likely have a small window to keep making the playoffs. That's true. We don't have much of a window. And with Bowen as defensive coordinator, that window is closing by the minute. If the Titans don't improve, if they're 28th in total defense, my best improvement is get into the teens. Get up to about 15. I would say the floor is about 17. That would be at least a 10 to 15 spot jump. If you can go from 28 to 15, that's 13 spots. That's actually pretty good. I would accept that. But if you're 28 and the best you do is maybe 25, if you can't even get out of the 20s, we're going to have a problem. Eyes watching me. He says, I'm here. You see me. I'm like, yes, I see you're on here. I appreciate it. But, I mean, I hate the hire, but we're going to see what happens. We're definitely going to see what happens. This also means, and I said this to a friend of mine earlier, J-Rob is going to have to hit the draft and free agency out of the ballpark. He's going to have to hit at least 3 or 4 home runs, have maybe a triple and a couple of doubles. He's going to have to get some major hits in free agency and in the draft. And we're about to unveil my first 2021 mock draft in just a few moments. I'm going to try something and hope that this works. And Blue 5133 says this better be the best free agency and draft class we've ever had. Yeah. This better be like, we got to have a huge offseason because we got over 20 impending free agents. We got some major decisions to make. Can we find a way to bring back Jonnu? Do we bring back Corey Davis? Do we cut Malcolm Butler, which I don't think we'll do. I think they'll try to restructure. Do they let Kenny Vaccaro go and say, you know what? Amani Hooker is ready to start. Who are you going to bring in as a pass rusher? Because you're going to have to bring a pass rusher in, and you're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to bring in a guy like a Bud Dupree or a Matthew Judon, or if you could get a Shaq Barrett, which I don't know if he's getting out of Tampa, especially if he wins a Super Bowl and does well, that price is going to go up. You're going to have to spend some money because another thing is look at the slate of teams we're going to be going up against next year. And I'm just going to name a few. The home slate is brutal by itself. We're already going to have to face the Jags with probably Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. The Colts twice, which we know they're going to always be a tough out. And let's just sprinkle in the middle of that an improving Cleveland Browns team. We got to go on the road to Pittsburgh. But we also got to play a certain team that's in the Super Bowl next week. And they wear red, and they got this kid that's on the State Farm commercials by the name of Patrick Mahomes. Got to play him next season. So J-Rob better understand he better build a team that not only can win the AFC South, but can beat that speed of the Kansas City Chiefs. That means we're going to have to get faster on both sides of the ball to do that. And Shane Bowen ain't out coaching Andy Reid. No way, no how. That means we're going to have to outscore him. And that means Todd Downing is going to have to make sure we can score at least 35 points a game to beat those guys. Oh, and not to mention, if there is a 17th game, who is that 17th team? Probably the New Orleans Saints. We got a first place schedule. We won the division. So we're getting best of the best. Not to mention throwing in the AFC West with an improving Cardinals team, the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, and you know that's always a tough place to play, probably with fans. And then we got to go to Buffalo. We got Buffalo coming here, and Buffalo is probably going to want revenge for what happened the COVID game. And we have an improving Miami Dolphins team who won 10 games and missed the playoffs. And it's going to be very difficult to do because right now we don't have a lot of money. If the cap stays where it is, we might be all right. If the cap goes down, we won't be. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can. Sorry about that noise y'all heard. Let's see. I'm going to try to see if I can find out Titans salary cap if it stays at 100 and if it stays at 100 and where it is at 190, I want to say 193 million. Let's see. Okay. Now, this past year it was at 198 million. It could go down to as low as 176, which would be about 22 million less. Let's see. At best, the salary cap, if the salary cap stays the same. Now, if it goes down, if you can get some restructuring together, let's see. You might be able to be about 6 million. That's if it goes down. You might be able to work that out, but that was before. So I think really the Titans are over the cap if it's at 176. They will be over the cap. But with they may have some wiggle room if they stay where it is. So that's going to be the key. If it stays where it is, the Titans might have about 20-something million to work with. If it goes down, we're not going to have much. What's up, Chris Frazier? What's going on? And DNS says the cap goes down, as a lot of people say, we are in trouble. That's true. I agree. If it goes down, we're not going to be looking good, and we're going to have to make some major moves just to get under the cap. So we got our work cut out for us, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't know how easy that's going to be. Joseph said we need to fire Rashawn Evans, hopefully hire a veteran backup quarterback. Now, I mentioned this to Ken and Tighten Up Load last night. I would rather see David Long and Jayon Brown play together, and you could trade Rashawn Evans. You might be able to get a third rounder for him. Maybe. Because he's still on his rookie deal. And middle linebacker is a pretty good position that you need. So we're definitely going to find out. I'm trying to see if I can find out what the cap would be if it stayed where it is. And let's see. And I'm not sure. Like I said, before next week, I will have some information on that. So let's go ahead and unveil my 2021 mock draft. I'm going to try to see if I can do this. And let's see. I'm going to try to see if I can do this and everything. So here we go. This is courtesy of the draft machine. And y'all let me know if y'all can see this screen or not. But this was my mock draft for the Tennessee Titans. And I will share this out later on tonight. This is what I came up with. In the first round, I go with Gregory Rougeau, pass rusher from Miami. He was the best player available at that time. That's what I went with. In round 2, I went with Washington defensive lineman Levi Onwuzurike from Washington. In round 3, I went with I decided to go offense with a receiver. Just in case Corey Davis goes, I go with Oklahoma State wide receiver Tylan Wallace. I just couldn't pass him up. I think he's a very good receiver, and I think he would fit great here. And also late in round 3, I doubled down on pass rusher with Patrick Jones from Pittsburgh. Even though I was looking at some Senior Bowl stuff, and I'll talk about that in a bit, I wasn't impressed with Patrick Jones, but He could be a good pass rusher. He was best available in that situation. In round 4, I decided. Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, why in the world did he pick a running back? I picked Chuba Hubbard from Oklahoma State, and here is why. The guy's a workhorse. This could be the same situation before. We got about maybe 2 good elite years left with Derrick Henry. Do the same thing that we did before with DeMarco Murray. You bring Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's your top guy. You bring in a Hubbard and make Darrington Evans your third back. And then when that happens, if Derrick Henry starts to deteriorate, Chuba Hubbard can take over and we don't drop off. That's the way I saw it. In round 5, I went offensive line, interior offensive line with Sedarius Hutchinson from South Carolina. In round 6, I came back home. Went with a cornerback, Bryce Thompson from Tennessee, and Josh Palmer, the wide receiver from Tennessee, who I will say looked very impressive in some of the film that I looked at during the Senior Bowl. Very impressive film work that I had with going up against some of the defensive backs. I mean, extremely impressive that I saw from Josh Palmer. I think he could go earlier than the 6th round. I mean, right now he could probably go round 5 or round 4. We could see that happening. But this was just a mock draft that I started with. This is my first ever Titans mock draft. I'm probably maybe going to start coming out with these maybe once every other week or something like that. And I'm probably going to do I may do a mock draft before free agency for the entire first round. So I may do something with that and everything. So I'm going to come out with a couple of mock drafts and let me see what y'all think. So leave me some comments. Let me know what y'all think of this mock draft. Let me know what y'all think of this particular pick. Do you like it? Do you think it's good? Do you think it sucks? Let me know what y'all think about that. But that is the mock draft that I have for the Tennessee Titans in the first round. So I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool to me on that. But I want to get some of y'all comments on what you think. Let's see. The GOAT says I would switch Evans to outside linebacker. Maybe that could help. The GOAT says, give me Killian Hill instead of Hubbard. Otherwise, this is good. Where did Killian Hill play football at? I need to know that. I haven't heard of him. Renegade says they're saying Micah Parsons might drop in the first round. But Micah Parsons is a middle linebacker. Right now, we don't need one of those. We don't need one of those that high in the first round. Now, if he's there in the second round, maybe I would think about it. He could be too good to pass up if he's there in round 2, if he does drop. Because in the end, I mean, hey, he could make Rashaan Evans extremely expendable. That could be very well. And the GOAT said, we tried drafting a kid with character concerns last year. True. DNS says Rougeau is not NFL ready. Big athlete, but very sloppy with his feet. Now, again, I went best player available. Now, I'm going to be slowly starting to watch some film on some of these guys, but I will say this. I did watch some Senior Bowl tape yesterday, and let me tell you some guys that I was very, very impressed with when I watched. Number 1 was Quincy Roche. Quincy Roche looked good in the few drills I saw him. When he went up against Alex Leatherwood from Alabama, you know, Alex Leatherwood might go in the first round. Quincy Roche showed a explosive first step. Got around Leatherwood with relative ease. I mean, got around him quick and was getting to the guy with the ball. Another guy that impressed me, Boogie Basham, showed a lot of tenacity, and he showed some toughness. He can hold up. I think he needs to get a few pass rush moves. He's more of a power guy. to me. But some other guys that caught my attention was Cam Sample from Tulane, had some good pass rush reps, and Wyatt Hubert from Kansas State. That guy had some nastiness to him. I mean, straight up mean streak, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. But Gregory Roger, Rizzo, I'm going to watch him. I'm going to check him out because, I mean, he only had one real year of production because the year before, in 2018, I think he missed most of the year, if not all the year, because of injury. Had 2019 with 15 and a half sacks, and in 2020, he opts out. So he might not be NFL ready, and that could drop him down some boards. So I could definitely see that. Let's see, Titan Weezy likes my pick of Tylan Wallace. It says refusing to trade Watson. The Texans are, yeah. The GM came out and said, we're not trading Watson. We're not trading him. Okay, Killian is from Mississippi. Okay, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Okay. Chris Fraser says Patrick Jones. He likes that. Yes, mock drafts are very entertaining. They're very entertaining. It gets your mind spinning a little bit. Look, hey, I'm no expert. I'm just giving it a whirl, giving it a try, seeing what I come up with. I'm just having a little fun with that. Jameson says, I like going defense in the first 2 rounds. I almost wanted to go defense in the first 3 rounds, but Tylan Wallace was just too good to pass up, in my opinion. Dedrick says, Vrabel is starting to show Bill O'Brien traits. Sad but true. CW says, the only edge player the Titans will bring in is Clay Matthews to replace Clowney, so Vrabel will annoy us even more. I mean, it depends on the money, but they're going to have to spend. And I know in the back of J-Rob's mind, he is probably terrified. He is probably terrified that, you know what, he's thinking, well, I messed up with Beasley and Clowney. I'm afraid of making a big purchase free agent, and that mistake bites me again. But again, you're talking about a guy who just came off of a major injury and another guy we didn't even know if he loved football or not, because once we signed him, we hadn't heard from him, and he didn't even show up to training camp on time. So it is what it is. Let's see. James says Titans cannot miss on draft picks. You got that right. And BLVGA, I apologize. I haven't gotten to you yet. Hit me up on Facebook. We definitely going to talk. So I apologize. I'm at fault. Let's see. CW says, I really like Hendrickson with the Saints. I think he had like 11, 12 sacks. Yeah, good kid. Looked like he got some toughness to him. The GOAT says, I'll take a receiver in round 2 and re-sign Corey. We're going full offense because this defense is going to be bottom 5. That is the exact reason why I go all defense. We're trying to make them better. Offensively, we're straight. Now, again, if Corey goes elsewhere, yeah, you're gonna have to draft a receiver. Henderson, high energy pass rusher, gives it his all, but he won't be cheap. Agreed. Because I want to say, according to Mark, what he found out with Pro Football Focus, I believe his value is at about $11 million a year. Is that about 11, 12 million a year? I mean, if he's high energy could beat talent any day. If you've got the motor and the want to, it pays major dividends. That much is a fact. So, again, we're going to have to definitely see what happens. We're definitely going to have to be crunching some stuff together. But if you get rid of Adam Humphries, maybe restructure Malcolm Butler, you probably got $5 million right. You got about $10 million right there. Vaccaro, if you get rid of him, you probably get another $4 to $5 million. You could probably make it so you can save about up to $20 million. you might be able to work something out, but we do have to get some better horses. And that's going to be key. So, y'all, let's see. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Of course, shout out to AJ Brown. I'm going to have to go back and watch the verses, him and Justin Jefferson for the Pro Bowl. I know they're having the Pro Bowl celebration Sunday. And AJ Brown's going to be part of it. Derrick Henry's going to be a part of it. So definitely looking forward to that. Just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything before I get out of here. And of course, I hear from the new defensive line coach. He said, look, he likes a challenge. I'm like, yep, you're going to get a challenge, all right. You're definitely going to get a challenge, all right. And it we're going to find out. And I see on Twitter, Titans Film Room is like, stop freaking out about Bowen and become optimistic about Downing instead. And I'm actually definitely I'm a little bit more optimistic about Downing than I do with Bowen. I think Bowen's going to stink. I think Downing is going to be all right at the end. So we're definitely going to find out. But everybody, that is my show for tonight. I thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go get some food. And I am just happy that everybody was able to tune in. And I thank all of y'all for watching. Y'all know where to find me. You know where I am. Y'all know, make sure y'all follow the show out. Make sure them likes get up. If you haven't watched the show yet, go back and watch it. Make sure y'all spread the word. I will. And I will see y'all on Wednesday as we get ready to talk about this Super Bowl a little bit. And I'll give you some thoughts on the Senior Bowl and what I'm thinking as far as maybe taking a look at, positions that we need to go after. So thank y'all for tuning in. And as usual, y'all know we got to tighten up because that's all we know how to do. Yep, CW right. 10 yards off the ball ain't going to do it. I agree. I bid y'all a good night. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for sticking with me. Make sure y'all let everybody else know. Tune in to Tighten Up Load at 9 o'clock tonight. I'll holler at y'all.